Hi, I'm Don Braden, and you're watching the Jazz Musician's Voice live at the Litchfield Jazz Festival 2013. Keep swinging.
Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm here with Don Braden at the 2013 edition of the Litchfield International Jazz Festival here in Goshen, Connecticut. And Don, you've been here for many years, and this is like home, man. This place is just like it's a brother and sisterhood here. You know?
Yeah.
And it's just great to see you continuing to keep the fire burning in these jazz camps, because what you guys do here is really important for the future of the music.
Yep.
Know? So tell us a little bit about how it was this year at Litchfield Jazz Camp.
Well, it was a great year. I guess the main thing that we really accomplished was helping the students to more deeply discover themselves and their creativity. We had real success doing that.
Wow.
On a lot of levels.
Sure.
You know, the playing side of it, improvisation, the expressive side, just on that basic level was a definite improvement for a lot of students.
Yeah.
We had a big jump in composition in general, especially in earlier weeks. We had kids writing, we had groups that wrote their whole like 3 and 4 tunes, you know, squeezed into like 14 minutes at the student concert.
Yeah.
We had them squeezed in like that, writing like that. Like kids who would literally write in the combo would have 4 original tunes. We had it happen twice, at least, a bunch of times, actually about maybe 3 or 4 times in the course of, you know, plus a lot of single individual tunes throughout the course. So they might play that like, you know, Simone or some other tune, but there was a lot of composition that went on. In general, the vibe at the camp was great. Behaviorally, things were great. You know, that counts because you know, if you had to send somebody home or if something serious happens like that, you know, it does, you know, kind of affect the overall vibe.
It adds
you
a
know.
tinge to something.
Yeah, you know, so it's nice that people kept themselves cool and focused. Yeah, kept together, focused on music. Logistically, our staff, we've been doing this for a long time now, so we have a lot of systems, and the thing is kind of down to a science now on a lot of logistics, check-ins and tracking everybody and combo placement, all this stuff now. We got it down. We have really good systems in place now that make it much easier on everybody. And so we all don't overwork so much. In the old days, we all, like when you were a student, back in those days, we all were pretty much overworked all the time.
Yeah. Now things are evolving,
now
you know.
It runs like clockwork now, and everybody has some time to kind of unwind. And it's still long. I mean, 5 weeks is long, you know. Yeah. But everybody really loves it. The vibe is great. We had blessing with the weather. The first couple weeks were really hot, like really hot. Last 3 weeks were like awesome with the weather for the most part. We got some rain, but other than that, it was great. So it made things way easier.
Well, you know, I was thinking about you guys when you started up. I was just finishing up Montreal as you guys were starting up, and I was following the posts. It's so amazing with the advent of Facebook and social networking and such, how that adds to something with the jazz camp, because it allows people to be in tune in a way that they didn't used to be. You know?
Oh yeah, and we have a Facebook team. You know, that they post stuff pretty and randomly. You know, like from various faculty members, etc. But we have people post. We have videos going up every day. You know, and the parents saw a video. They saw pictures every single day from camp activities, which really created a beautiful.
And you know, it allows the parents to feel like they're getting their money's worth and have the kids see their kids. You know,
absolutely. And as a parent, trust me, that's valuable.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you know, I'm a parent too now, and you know, I know what that is. You know, I have a 2.5-year-old son. And,
I didn't know that.
You know,
that's right.
Now the thing I want to mention, and this is something you know, we'll have to talk about more in the future. I want to talk about live streaming and the fact that I'm working with Smalls Jazz Club on their revenue sharing project. An idea that I had for next year is, why not live stream the student concerts? Because what happens is a lot of these performers and guys who have been coaching these ensembles are so busy here at the festival, they don't necessarily get a chance to see their students perform.
Sure.
So why not live stream it and record it? So in the future, people can watch it back.
Sure.
So that might be something to think about.
Yeah, we do. We already post. We video record all the concerts and we post it already. So it's not live streaming, but we do.
It's like,
but it's still so that. And also, most instructors they're required to stay. That's what part of the gig. And on occasion, a few of them miss it. But they do. But because it's posted, they're able to see it.
Sure.
Parents who might not be able to come because of distance or for some other reason are also able to see their students, their child or whatever play. There are and relatives who would want to see aunts and uncles and things who won't make the trip for whatever reason, just doesn't make sense for them. We'll be able to have an opportunity to see the concert. So we do, and we're going to up the ante on that. That's more and more a part of what we already do.
Yeah.
So it's a reality of the technology that we have access to.
Well, it's amazing. Since I was at the camp, technology has evolved so rapidly. It's just amazing. We never would have even thought of the iPhone pretty soon we're going to have Google Glass.
Right.
So what's going to happen is the kids at the camp are going to be wearing these glasses and recording everything, and it's going to be going directly to people and keeping in touch and rooting for these kids. And it's just amazing to see how the future of technology evolves. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays in with Litchfield and the camp.
Yeah.
Now the question I want to ask you, and this is like a real deep question, but I want to talk about jazz camps and the fact that there are so many students going into this music with the idea that they're going to get a gig right out of school or out of camps. And unfortunately, the reality of it is, right now, there's simply not enough work out there for everyone. So what ends up happening is either kids fizzle out or they get discouraged or certain things happen. And I know it's a two-bladed sword because, you have to find a way to work and you have to have this camp, and it is great to live in that world and think about jazz camps and how did they evolve and how do they push kids. But do you ever sit down with these kids and really talk about the realities of what they're facing?
Yeah, we did Friday.
This music?
We did Friday. Yeah, we had to sit down with all the kids on Friday, with all the faculty. Yeah. As we did, we did our Friday, our powwows every single Friday. Yeah. So this last Friday, when we had the most kids, we talked about getting work and what it means to be a professional musician, and we covered it every week, but this time we really got into it, because we had college theme week on week 3, and so we got into that side of it. Yeah. And the thing is that about when you ask the kids, a show of hands, how many of you are considering being a professional musician? About almost 3/4 of them, like 2/3 of them raise their hand, almost 3/4. Yeah. So it's like, holy moly. Well, guess what, guys? There's some things to think about.
Here's the reality.
So, so the good news is that they're young still. So these guys
they got time.
They're prepping for. At our camp, we're prepping them for college. We're not prepping them for the real world. Yeah. So we don't have to throw them to the wolves just yet. Mm-hmm. We can give them we can still give them the nice story, and say, and then as part of that say, okay. However, looking along down the road a piece. Here's some things to think about. So, but right now, closer to in front of you is let's deal with all these other elements of the musical side of it, which means your instrumental technique, sound, rhythm, in particular, harmony, melody, learning tunes, jazz nuance, blues, all the things that go with the practice of expressing jazz music. Then we deal with life skill things such as teamwork, leadership, all those things for which jazz is a model of democracy, how to listen. All these other important aspects of what jazz can teach you, right? So we did all that stuff kind of as a short term, what's ahead of you, and long term as well, of course. And then we sat down on Friday and said, okay, at some point you got to make some decisions about how you're gonna create cash flow. Yeah. Positive cash flow.
How do you make money?
And there's levels to that. Yeah. So part of it is because I told them, I said I programmed computers for 12 years before I became a full-time musician. Oh yeah. A lot of people do all kinds of
You're a businessman. You're an entrepreneur.
And Ralph Moore, when I first got to New York in '85, Ralph Moore was working at Tower Records. Yeah. I mean the cats have always done whatever they had to do to keep cash flow for the family, etc. So that part of it is very important.
Very important, something that I've been talking with cats, and I think it's been building, and it's coming to a pinpoint. What's going to happen at some point is there's going to be a bubble in the jazz education world that's going to burst, unfortunately. So what happens is we've institutionalized jazz programs, called collegiate programs, and there's a big debate as to whether it's even necessary really to have a music program dedicated to jazz. A lot of people talk about, well, why not have a program for classical technique and just study with 3 insanely good teachers? David Binney, for example, studied with Bob Minster, George Coleman, and studied with Dave Liebman. That type of thing is going to be, I think, what will turn it into something, because people can't really afford music schools anymore. So,
see, I think, and I just wrote an article about this for New York City Jazz Journal, just the August issue.
Yeah.
So what used to be all about jazz now. So it just came out. And my thing about jazz education is this: jazz education has 2 prongs to my thinking. One is the actual scholarly pursuit of a great tradition.
Sure.
Like studying philosophy.
Yeah.
I mean, how many jobs are you going to find on philosophy?
Yeah.
But philosophy is awesome to study, because you just learn so many things about what great people have thought about incredible things, incredible human activity and direction and emotion and thought. And so, and there's a lot of things like that, scholarly stuff. So, and I don't mean it as a research thing, but I mean the practicing art of jazz for the sake of art. Like a liberal art, like not with an agenda to make money, just to be great or to really enjoy and immerse in a very powerful art form that can help you find something about yourself. Yeah, that's one. That's there's a whole debate about this.
Yeah, sure.
And so that's a huge value. I think that's a super important thing. Liebman is one of the ones who talks about this. Yeah, and I'm all about. I'm like, yeah, man. I think that's really great. So that's one thing. And 2, to me, my thing about jazz education is that jazz music is the best kind of music to study for the purpose of any kind of practicing music. Because classical technique is cool, but classical technique is still, it's just technique. Yeah. It's a little tiny piece of the music puzzle.
Yep.
Like because if you think of sound as part of technique, well, classical technique doesn't apply to jazz, because the classical sound is different than jazz sound. Because jazz sound is this personal thing. Now, the execution in an efficient way of getting a great sound, well, classical is a great help for that. But in the end, jazz people also deal with that side of it. So, so studying jazz in a great program should, in fact, not be preparing you to go and participate in some bubble that might burst, or some situation that might not exist, or might be paring down based on social reality. But it should prepare you to function as a flexible artist in any genre. That's why I look at jazz education. Because think about all the bands that use jazz people, or all the TV shows. Yeah, I mean, Ricky Minor and all those guys. They're the baddest cats. Yeah, jazz cats are the baddest ones. They can hear better than anybody else. They have great technique. Maybe not as great technique as some classical people, but they still have great technique. And they can play freaking anything. They read pretty well. If not again, maybe not as well as a classical person, because it's not about the reading, but they read pretty well, especially the ones who do ensemble stuff. They can compose. They can hear anything. They can execute, any kind of expressive things. Sure. They know how to listen critically, because jazz music is so about listening, way more than any other kind of music. Jazz music is totally about listening. Yeah. So you can tell a jazz guy, hey, imitate that. He can say, cool, give me a second. Bam, I got this. Yeah. If he's a real serious jazz guy. As long as, and jazz people in general, depends on the program and on the tutelage, my thing is be open. That's why we have a freaking R&B band here. We have a Latin band here. Because I'm like, man, you gotta have to be able to do it all, because you need that flexibility. Plus, life is about being flexible. I mean, jazz is awesome, but it's not about this just being narrow and I mean, to focus is very important. But in the end, being inclusive rather than exclusive is where we're at. And the inclusive musician is the one who'll be able to work the most and be able to have the most fun playing whatever, as opposed to being all kind of heavy about, okay, I got to do this, I got to do that. Yeah. Well, okay, if you to learn and get your standard up high, yes, you got to do this and that. But when you're at the point where you're doing stuff well and you're executing, then having the ability to enjoy pursuing any genre and flying through it like a jazz guy can. I mean, that is like, there's no feeling like that in the world. I think that's awesome. And I think we can produce a bunch of musicians like that. I think we're doing a service. We're doing a service. And the bubble won't be, if there's a kind of a crisis that happens between the number of, let's say, people looking for gigs and the ones who and a number of gigs, that crisis won't be such a crisis, and at least not for the ones who are flexible, especially if they have the mindset that they're gonna be cool. Let me go and join, a very good funk band or R&B or Latin or whatever, and have fun doing that, and then do my $50 jazz gigs, because those aren't going anywhere. Those things are so low paid.
Those are still there,
they'll be there.
What I really appreciate about the way that you put the spin on that is you're a Harvard engineer, man. You're an intelligent guy, and that's totally true, man. The future of everything in the world is fusions, mixing together, whether it's race and black and white and purple or whatever color you are. That's one fusion, but then music is fusions. And Chick Corea was just talking to me about fusion and creating new fusions and exploring that.
It's not only the future; it's been the past too. Fusions have been happening throughout music.
And that's
you and me are fusions. We're African Americans.
Exactly.
Guess what? We're a product of fusions. Like it or not. I mean, if you go back to the history, it's kind of a tricky thing that gave rise to it.
It is.
But in the end, man, look at the beautiful work we've done as African Americans.
Exactly.
I mean, the African Americans have done profound things out here.
Look at Obama.
Look at Obama. Look at Garrett Morgan. Look at Jackie Robinson. Look at, the list is, look at Charlie Parker. Look at, the list is, it's, so we're all a fusion.
Well,
that's great. And then at the same time, there's still identity that goes, that has some integrity. So there's a balance between that you have to find. But I think, so we have to be mindful of that too. And that's the balance. That's what the educated people are thinking about. We're like, people who are not thinking about it are just executing without thought. So, that is what it is. But there's a lot of folks who are putting some thought into this and saying, okay, there's a core, the core philosophy is there's core integrity to certain aspects of art and human expression, so we keep a handle on those, and that's part of the scholarly things. That's where prong number one comes back. You study what the old cats did, so that we don't lose that. We don't want to fusion that out.
History is important,
critical,
and something that is so great about a cat such as yourself is that you are doing many things well. And that's what all of us youngsters need to do, and that's what I've been focusing on. I do my interviews well, I do my history well, I do my playing well. Those are the type of things that we need to have students and campers and people learning. They can't do just one thing well. They have to do many things well in the future.
It is what it is.
That's what it is.
It is what it is. So, and I think if you adopt that mindset, the only limitations are in your mind. And there's a time limitation eventually. So you pick and choose your handful of things that you're going to focus on. Craft them according to your passions, according to your energy and skill sets, environment, and then work your butt off.
And the things
don't stop
together.
And don't stop. Work your butt off. Hook up with good people. Work your butt off, and don't stop. Don't stop until you get what you need to get done. Because if you're persistent and consistent, you got and hook up with good people. You got a good shot at getting something done that's meaningful and having fun in the process too.
Exactly. Well, Don, you've now had a year to be at Montclair, and you were telling me about how you were going to head that program.
Sure.
Tell me now, a year later, how that was and how it's been.
It's actually there's a new story now. So now I completed 2 years as coordinator of jazz studies at Montclair State University.
Okay.
Last year, right after I left camp last year, I got a call from Harvard.
Oh wow!
And Harvard, the band director of bands, who was the director when I was an undergrad, said, "Yeah, man. So hypothetical for you. What if I asked you to come in on Mondays and run the Harvard Monday Jazz Band for me?" So I said, "Could you think you could work that out with your schedule?"
Yeah.
So I let me get back to you. So I looked at my calendar, went through everything carefully. I called him back and said, "Yo, man, it's possible." He said, "Let me get back to you." So 2 weeks later, he called me. I was over on campus on jazz camp last week. So 2 weeks later, after we finished up, he calls me up and said, "It's a go.
Awesome.
Can you come next week for auditions?" So I worked last year, at the same year as I was in my second year at Montclair State now, running the Harvard Jazz Band. So I ran up there on Mondays, and honestly, that filled my schedule to the overloaded.
and then you're still doing Groningen, right?
I was still doing Groningen and still doing jazz routines. Well, it must be
like 5 Don Braden.
There were 5 Don. Last year there were 5 Don Braden. It was pretty intense. So last year we did get quite a few things done at Montclair State. I was able to, through the generosity of the Montclair Art Museum, I was able to implement a program of gigs for the students for ensembles every month. Sure. So they had, and it was paying gigs. So they got in there every month for the Montclair Art Museum. They got professional experience, which they hadn't had before like that, not off campus.
Yeah.
So that was cool. So we got the Montclair Art Museum gig implemented, and I was very proud about that. So I think they did about 10 gigs or 8-9 gigs for them last year. And they're going to do it again next year. They really liked it. So and the combos really enjoyed it. They got paid, and they got fed, and they got the experience to play, which is great. It's just 15 minutes down the street, so that's great. We did do recordings both the years that I was coordinator for the combos. So we documented what the combos was pretty well, which had never been done before. So that was good. And we implemented a number of other, I got the combos playing twice a week. They'd only been done once a week. So they made much more progress, which is good, at least when possible. Scheduling at Montclair is a big university, so it was challenging. Yeah. But we did that. So I got a few things done. I had a long list of things to do. I couldn't get to that much of it, especially when Harvard came online. So I did do the recording. We did do some good concerts. We did quite a few things. So, but Harvard now, I'm on the guy who Tom Everett, the director of bands, eventually retired. He took a leave when I came in to sub for him for 6 months. And then it turned into a retirement.
So now you've got that job.
Well, no, doesn't wish it were that simple. The job converted from a guest conductor position to an interim conductor position.
Okay. Yeah.
So now I'm on an interim basis for the next year. They've hired me for next year already.
Till they find someone else.
Till they do a search.
Okay.
And I may apply for the job. So I've got interim for next year, 13-14, possibly 14-15. We'll see what it is. But 13-14 is set. They'll do a search, and then if it makes sense for me to apply, I'll apply. Otherwise, I'll run my course there. I've taken the year off from Montclair State for this coming year, so I could not be overloaded, and give Harvard and give Montclair State a chance to get someone who's not, stretched too thin.
Well, just look at Mulgrew, man.
Yeah,
you don't want to do that, man. You're coming on that age. You're similar age, and
it's just as I understand from I'm talking to David Dempsey and some others, Mulgrew Miller had a great fit at William Patterson. It was
perfect, man.
It was a really good fit. The kids loved him. Everybody loved him. He loved the gig, and I think it wasn't super stressful on him. To be honest,
it wasn't too stressful for Mulgrew. The thing is, Mulgrew, William Patterson was very cool. They helped accommodate it so Mulgrew could change his schedule around. But towards the end, it was a little challenging to balance it all because he lived an hour and a half away.
Distance away, right?
So that's hard on the body. And, but who knows? Genetics and all those things.
There's a lot of factors that go into it. But the feeling, the emotions and the vibe were really good there, even if the actual physicalities of it could have been a factor. And so it's just one of those things. But the bottom line is what you're saying to me, which is something I understand very well, is you got to find balance with all that. So you don't whatever your age. And I'll be 50 this year, so I definitely want to. That's
what you taught us,
That's right.
When I was in the camp, balance.
Yep.
Because if you are not balanced and you're doing too much on one side, everything falls apart.
Correct.
You could do all the most amazing playing, but if you're not leading a healthy, balanced life, you'd be dead tomorrow and everything's gone, man.
Correct. And it could come to a grinding halt at any time. So you really have to.
And I really appreciate that about you, Don, because there are other guys your age who are not following that. And unfortunately, we can't afford to be losing all these guys.
Cannot.
But they are doing it. And there's one guy, I won't mention his name here, but there's one guy that, we need him. And he's not living it up right now. He's not going to the right direction.
Yeah.
So we need guys like you to set the example for them so that they will continue to be here for the world, because the jazz scene is not getting any larger as far as cats who've played with these major legends.
That's correct.
You're a messenger. You played
at least for a second. Honorary messenger.
An honorary messenger.
Yep.
And you're certainly a messenger to all of us young students.
Sure. Oh yeah.
So now let's talk about the global jazz school and thing, because jazz is becoming much more global. There's a big thing happening in the Middle East and in Asia, and there's a big need for education out there.
Sure.
Any future plans for Litchfield to branch out into other places around the globe?
Yes, Vida is very interested in doing some international recruiting. She actually went to Siberia. She took herself to Siberia and worked with, and I've been to Siberia too. I was there a few years ago playing with some Russian musicians, with Valery Ponomarev and some great players. And it's some really good musicians there, young guys who really want to play, who study, practice, they're serious. And you know, she brought Alex Nakamasky on the schedule on the faculty this year, and he's a really good player, good teacher, and he's here in Connecticut. And Alex kind of has been trying to facilitate, you know, what can happen between Siberia and here. Wow. So that's already underway. Sure. She has a strong interest in doing something, you know, with Joris in Holland. You know, she's already started that conversation. We haven't tried. We started it with Korea too, because one of our guys, Sean Pentland, lives in Korea now. And so he is
building that,
giving some ideas. So I think that there's a good shot that there'll be some way for us to globalize, and we're still working on you know what the possibilities are for that. But it's something we're looking at. Absolutely.
Well, I'll tell you, you know, I have a YouTube channel that's global, more than 150,000 views currently on the channel, but over a lifetime, closer to 500,000.
Nice.
Globally, around the world.
Nice.
And these people comment, and they're from everywhere, which place, and they're like, thank you for what you do, because I'm here and I don't have that there.
Right.
So what's needed in this world now is for guys like you to train us youngsters to become educators, so that we can continue to pass the message to the broader global context. But what's interesting is the music is also evolving, so that the term jazz is no longer the term jazz. It's just such a broad thing that it includes so many different genres and art forms and things that fuse together, and it'll be interesting to see how that develops over the coming years. You know,
it's a challenge, because you know I love jazz music, and so you know I have a kind of allegiance to the term jazz, even though a lot of people don't like it. Duke Ellington didn't particularly like it. Nicholas Payton can't stand it.
You know, I can.
A lot of guys, you know.
But I agree with you, man, because see, somebody like Nicholas Payton is coming from a place where he's talking about things that happened quite a long time ago, and he's holding a grudge where the grudge is not really necessary. And it's actually causing a rift in an art form that doesn't need that rift. You know, it's helping to further divide things instead of bring it together. And unfortunately, what cats like Nicholas Payton don't see is that there are more white people playing this music than there are black musicians. So if you're going to start trying to call what you're playing black American music, what are you trying to do? You need to be focusing on bringing the youngsters who are into hip-hop back into jazz. And if you're going to create a new genre name, that's not going to do anything. So I think it's a complicated issue. You know?
Yeah, it's a complicated issue. I would say that if I define jazz in terms of the masters, and if we keep that focus, you know, if we keep the focus on Duke Ellington and Charlie Parker and Coltrane and Miles Davis and the Cats in general, you know, and then we branch out, you know, again, as we're talking in general terms here without getting too deep with it, but from a perspective of, you know, synchronizing all of us, the masters with the really good players of any color, they pretty much all revere the masters like pretty consistently. White players, black, Chinese, Japanese, they all pretty much about some Duke Ellington and Charlie Parker and Dexter and Sonny Rollins and Clifford Brown, like cats, you know. And I think there's a lot you can get done playing this music well, checking those guys out, studying the solos, studying the Max Roach, studying Elvin, studying Ron Carter, studying Ray Brown. There's a lot you can do with dealing with that aspect of it. And then you come forward, you can check out Joe Henderson, Freddie Hubbard, Stanley Turrentine, George Duke, cats like that who are still great jazz players, Herbie, who cross a bunch of genres and cover a lot of territory, but still deal with the Afro. See, that's the thing, is like, all the really good white players I know, they all deal with the afro. They're cool about that.
It.
They're with that. They're like, man, I'm all about it. They know what the deal is.
There's cats like, for example, Mike LaDon.
Yeah.
Mike LaDon knows totally. He respects that it's black music.
Yep.
But he also brings his own thing to it.
Sure. And that's what the music has always been about. So that side of it is cool. But the thing is that if you deal with that core, like Mike and so many of the great, Eric Alexander plays really well. He does, Ben Wolf. Those cats they're really trying to, be conscious of
and be respectful
and be respectful of that side of it. So that aesthetically, in their music, that the aesthetic is there.
Sure.
And so with that being there, you've got unity. You've got some connection there.
Yeah.
Not quite unity, that's the wrong word, but connection you definitely have.
Yeah.
And so with that, that's at least it's productive. And then, if you're looking at, the next levels of things, you look at commercialization, you look at globalization, you look at, other kinds of pockets of the genres of improvised music, then the issue gets a little more complicated because then there's other pressures and forces. I mean, you look at commercialization, and that's tricky for everything. For everything, because the commercial thing, folks are trying to get the bottom line going, and that's understandable.
Sure.
But that really puts some
yeah,
tricky pressures
and,
on things, and so that really complicates the issue.
I want to talk about Mulgrew Miller.
Yeah.
Because I'm working on making a film about Mulgrew Miller, and you were a bandmate of his on many occasions.
Yeah.
And I just want to talk about something you might want to share about Mulgrew, or some anecdotal memories or things like that.
Well, I'll say a few things. First off, just to put context in it, I joined the Tony Williams ensemble as a kind of a sub for Billy Pierce when he couldn't make the tours. Billy Pierce was the main tenor player right through the 80s and 90s.
Sure.
And there was a long tour in September of '87, the 7-week tour that Billy couldn't make the whole tour because of Berkeley.
Yeah.
So happily, for reasons I should have asked him. I have to ask him next time I see him. Why did you call me? And I think the really reason was he just liked me. He thought I could play well. He thought I could do the job well, etc. But I'm really glad he chose me. I was really proud about that. And
those videos are up there, man.
Yeah, and that playing with that band made a huge imprint on me. And still to this day, I've always loved really active, powerful drummers.
Sure.
Just in terms of my personal aesthetic.
Tony's one of the greatest drummers ever.
One of the best, of course. So to be able to work with him was really magical.
Yeah.
And all the cats in that group, and I started the tour in September '87 and made maybe another. I probably made about, let's say, a couple dozen tours or something like that. No, maybe a dozen tours.
Excellent.
Between '87 and '91.
So Mulgrew was really your homeboy, man, for a long time.
Oh yeah. So now we didn't hang hard. Like the cats, I was really hanging with the younger guys. Mulgrew was a little older than we were, so I was hanging with Wallace, Roney. We were hanging pretty tight, and Charnett.
Yeah.
And we were and Ira.
Oh yeah.
Ira
it's funny. I'm actually friends with Charnett's son.
Oh, okay.
And he's about my age, and he's a trumpet player.
Cool.
And
so on those tours we hung the most. But Mulgrew, what's great about Mulgrew is that first off, Mulgrew was always knew who he was, and was always real centered. Like he was the most relaxed of all of us.
Oh, he's a bad cat. Man.
We would always be like, really fighting a good fight up there in the horn section with the sound. He just, like trying to get our sound out there and everything. Mulgrew would just always be chill.
He's the MVP, most valuable player.
Yeah.
I mean, so you see him walk in like a football player to the jazz gig.
Right.
He's confident.
Right.
He's walking.
Right.
But at the same time, humble.
Totally humble. But his vocabulary, his musical vocabulary, his relaxed sense of swing.
Yeah.
It was really a perfect fit because it contrasts with Tony, yet it fit. In terms of the rhythmic side of it. Like it wasn't super aggressive, but it was aggressive enough. It was just the right kind of. It wasn't like pushing to interact with Tony in the same way that some other kinds of more aggressive players might play, but it was the right kind of balance that he had to make it feel really good when you're playing with him.
Yeah.
And
there was that level of admiration between Mulgrew and Tony.
Oh yeah.
And
they hung out too. They really connected with each other, personally. So that was a positive.
Yeah.
that was a very positive aspect of being around him. But the thing about Mulgrew is that the best thing about him, man, was he always had a smile for you, and he was always supportive.
Very supportive. Mulgrew, and I will say this time and again, if there was one person that I wanted to play with in this music and play with professionally, it was Mulgrew. That was the guy. I couldn't see anybody else except Mulgrew. That was the guy. Yeah. And I would talk to Mulgrew, and there was one time where I was sick, and Mulgrew invited me to sit in, and I will regret that forever because I was not able to make it at the Gitano. But Mulgrew, I played with him on many occasions in ensembles. I had a very close relationship with Mulgrew, and he's someone who really meant something to me. And it's so great to find someone else, because you were a mentor to me as well. So to find out that my two mentors were close and being friends with each other long ago. I watched on YouTube some of these videos of Mulgrew and you and the cats, and oh my God, man, it's just like it's the epitome of what us youngsters aspire to be like. You guys playing that stuff at that such high level at the right time. The Young Lions movement was just happening.
Yeah, it's good. That's good timing.
Wynton and you and Mulgrew and
like Terrence Blanchard, Donald Harrison, Branford. A lot of young cats came up.
So well. That must have been an amazing time to be around, and I just wish
Harper Brothers.
See, part of the interview series is I need to spend time with you guys, cats like you.
Yeah.
Who knows what happens? We live this life. Who knows? People depart each day, man. George Duke just passed 2 days ago.
Yep.
You never know. So it's always important to when you get a chance, catch up with a person. And I just treasure the moments that I did have with Mulgrew.
Yeah.
And thank you, Don, for saying a little something about Mulgrew, and hopefully we'll see you in the upcoming tributes to Mulgrew. And Don, thank you for doing everything that you do here at Litchfield, and continue keeping the flame burning.